Namaste. Welcome to another episode of Navimers podcast. So, after a long break, I am back with a book reading session. And in the evening, we will also have an interview and a discussion with Putin Khatak for his book, The Original Lynch Mob. So, do stay tuned for that at 7:30. So, right now, we will start our discussion and a bit of presentation that I have prepared regarding the two books which I actually gone through. First one is the Ultimate Goal, and second is the Unending Game. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining and tuning in. And let me just fetch the presentation. Till then, do let me know. Do you want me to read any chapter of this, both of these books, or we'll go to the presentation directly? Till then, I'll get the presentation ready and also need to share the details of the book. Sure. Now let me just first go to the book section where I'll need to share you the data where you will get this book. So here is it. So the book that you see on the screen itself and also on the screen that you have, Ultimate Goal, a former raw chief reconstructs how nations construct narratives. This book is available in Amazon and also in other platforms. Here I can see only available in Amazon, but you can also find in other also platforms and bookstores. So do pick up this book, and also as a companion, also you can also go for this book as well on the Unending Game. So these are a both sister companion books. They actually complement each other. They do talk about different things, but they do complement each other in terms of discussions and topics which are discussed. Now let me just check one more thing. Okay, fine. Let me just go and get the presentation going. It will take 30 to 1 minute to get the presentation ready. So just be a little bit of patience. I'll get this ready. There are actually three presentations I had created. So let me just check which one would be the right one for this session. Yeah, it's almost there. Oh, looks like the presentation is gone for a twist. Let me fetch where the presentation is gone. Ah, here it is. Got it. here we go. There are so many things that are happening. Finally, it's here. Let me now share my screen. Loading. Cool. Now let me go to this. Okay. Do let me know if you can see the screen. It's a bit bigger screen, and I will increase it for people to watch it. Okay. Fine. Thank you, Didi. There might be some network problem because I can see the internet is not doing well, but do let me know if the voice or the screen gets stuck so that I will reset the screen. But till then, we'll go on. So let's go. So this is the first presentation, enhancing strategic and intelligence and diplomacy. So when we talk about intelligence and strategic communications, so intelligence itself has a very important component called communication. So the infrastructure that we created for this is for strategic communications and infrastructure. Effective strategy. So these are all the recommendations which actually I have gathered from the book itself. Okay, and made into a presentation. So if you go through both the books, it will talk about a lot of things, but you can, as part of intelligence gathering, communication infrastructure is one of the most pillars of its communication strategy. So, in that perspective, communication is a pillar because communication is power, it is key, and it makes and decides if you win a war, if you lose a war. Okay, let me get the lights on. I think it's almost night now. Yeah, because there will be some issue with light. National narrative coordination. India's India's establishment of a cross-ministerial narrative task force ensures uniform. These are other suggestions which are from the book itself. So, national narrative coordination. India's establishment of a cross-ministerial narrative task force ensures a uniform messaging on territorial disputes, promoting clarity in government communications. This approach allows all concerned departments to deliver synchronized statements in response to border incidents, strengthening national unity and international credibility. I think this is something which is very important because we have seen a kind of narrative being created regarding the China border, especially in Ladakh. So we have seen a lot of people on social media, on national media, commenting that India has lost territory and China has gained territory. And there have been a lot of noise regarding this. There have been rebuttals happening, but there were it's not a coherent voice which was from the Indian government itself. So that created a very bad public perception regarding the present government's ability to actually safeguard Indian borders, and that created a negative sentiment among Indians. So, in that regard, I think this suggestion is very important that the India establishment of a cross-ministerial narrative task force ensures uniform messaging on territorial disputes, promoting clarity in government communications. So all the arms of the government, the army, the Minister of External Affairs, the Home Ministry, the Information and Broadcasting Ministry would actually coordinate and give a coherent response in case there is a narrative building being done on the other side. Public diplomacy enhancement. The Vaccine Maitri initiative underscores India's commitment to public diplomacy by sharing vaccines with neighboring countries, emphasizing humanitarian leadership. This strategic action not only aids in regional health but also strengthens India's influence through effective messaging around cooperation and solidarity. I think in 2020, when COVID struck, and India had actually exported and gave free vaccines to many countries, including Pakistan, and including in especially in African countries where they could not afford the vaccines developed by American and European companies. So this created a kind of a very good goodwill among the common people of those countries, which actually enhances the reputation, the positive reputation of India's diplomacy and in Indian government itself. So it's a kind of an asset, the narrative building which needs to take place. This is a one bright spot when the COVID pandemic was taking place. Media engagement protocols. Standardized briefing procedures facilitate timely media engagement during security incidents, providing journalists with relevant information while protecting operational details. This systematic approach replaces reactive methods, reinforcing trust between government, media, and ensuring informed public discourse. This is very important when we are in turbulent times, and we have seen a kind of fourth, fifth generation war. Information war is taking place across the globe, where use of social media is rampant in terms of peddling their own narrative, their own way of thinking, their own initiatives. In that regard, this is something which is very important. And we have seen, I think White House used to do this. White House would have a press conference almost every day. And now, I think in 1 or 2 years, we have seen the Minister of External Affairs, MEA, does a briefing to the media every week. Okay, I'm not sure exactly it's every week or every day, but weekly we have seen that the bites comes out from the MEA, and that's a very good positive initiative by government to actually disseminate right information to the media portals, then which gets picked up by the social media, and then people talk about it. So setting the right kind of discourse, which is very important for a narrative building approach. Digital presence and optimization, very important, because in the age of social media, any information or especially any misinformation, any false information gets disseminated at the speed of light, and once it is disseminated, it's virtually impossible to actually counter that, because the mindset is already being built. People have already consumed the information. Now to replace the information with the correct information becomes Herculean task. A coordinated social media strategy enables government agencies to establish a consistent visual identity and messaging framework across platforms. This approach enhances rapid response capabilities to counter misinformation, protecting India's digital narrative and strengthening overall communication effectiveness. Intelligence reform priorities. Effective intelligence reform is key to enhancing national security, operational efficiency, facilitating better oversight, coordination, and modernization across agencies. Parliamentary oversight. Establishing a specialized parliamentary committee with security clearance ensures that intelligence activities are reviewed without compromising classified operations. Similar to US Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, which promotes accountability and transparency in intelligence operations. I think India does have a Cabinet Committee on Security (CCS), but maybe that is a very general meeting happens. But Mr. Sood is suggesting a a kind of a special oversight committee being formed in Parliament, which will only oversee and work and review intelligence inputs, operations, requirements with proper security clearance given to people so that, and we have seen, correct, we have seen in the JFK papers where allegedly their own intelligence agency was behind the assassination of JFK. Whether it's true or not, we don't know exactly because we need to do the paper analysis. We need to read all through the papers. But impunity and without an oversight, any agency might have some rogue elements which might do some activities which may not be in favor of India's overall national security. So an oversight is very important to actually keep the trust of its common people and its parliamentarians, the elected representatives and the agencies in a binded manner where they work for the overall security of the country itself rather than having its rogue actors doing unlawful things. Interagency coordination. I think on this regard, I think India has done well because now we have NSA, we have NIA, National Investigation Agency. So NIA is doing a very good job in terms of actually working on specific security challenges, internal challenges, and they have done a good job. They have done a very good job in West Bengal. They have done very good terror investigations, especially in Tamil Nadu and other regions where there were incidents happening. And they have actually apprehended and busted a lot of modules which are working against Indian interest in India itself. So, but creating a joint analysis center allows research and analysis wing, RAW, intelligence bureau, and military intelligence to collaborate on shared threat assessments, fostering a unified approach to address terrorist network operating across Pakistan and Afghanistan border. I think in the lines of America, you have NSA. Sorry, not NSA. You have Department of National DNA. So Utulsi Gabbard is the now head of the agency. Okay, so we need some kind of agency that we have in America like this is also here, and I think that's the need of the hour with the kind of security situations we are facing in terms of China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and other actors actively working against India, working a coordination group between the Research Analysis Wing and Intelligence Bureau and Military Intelligence and few other agencies which are working on these related plots is very essential and required. Technological modernization. Implementing advanced AI systems for pattern recognition in satellite imagery enhances ability to detect unusual activities along contested borders, significantly boosting efficiency over traditional manual analysis methods. I think this is something which has been done. We have India is now deploying NAVIC, NAVIC, its own GPS system. They are adding satellites, and now once it is completed, India will have its own GPS, the way US has and the way Russia has, China has, and that will actually enhance. And with this Modi government working to actually enable and use AI in terms of its governance, and also we have seen Indian armed forces use drones, and drones do use a lot of AI technology. So we are making some good progress, but I think a dedicated force might be required in future so that we will have a dedicated team of AI experts and professionals who would actually oversee this and make sure that the analysis is done in time with accuracy so that it can be used as a preventive measure to take action. Talent development, establishing specialized recruitment and training programs, targeting technology professionals and language specialists allow intelligence agencies to enhance their capabilities, moving beyond traditional civil service recruitment pools for a more skilled workforce. This is something which is very, very important. The archaic method by which currently the recruitment takes place is something which needs an overhaul. And this is the suggestion from the author himself that, and America has already moved on this. And I think India have to do something about it to make sure that the challenges which we will face in future are going to be in terms of theft of IP, information theft, information will be taken away, they will be stealed upon, and ability to actually. So now we have a lot of data coming in, social media, normal communications. So we have a lot of unstructured data which comes in, and that data crunching analysis will require a specialized people who can actually do those systems, and they need to work on that. So in that required skills, specialized skills on AI technology, and also on related to signals intelligence, signals. So we would need a high number of technically skilled signals intelligence professionals who would be able to actually analyze the data which is gathered from various methods, various sensors, and create a comprehensive report which can be given to people who can take decisions. Analytical emphasis. Restructuring intelligence units to allocate more resources for analyzing implications of initiatives such as China's Belt and Road Initiative, foster a more proactive understanding of global developments rather than merely collecting data. That's very important. Data you can collect, but data is useless until you are able to draw meaningful conclusions from those data. And for that, you would need talented, specialized pool of talent people who would have the capability to do that. Diplomatic strategy adjustment. Effective diplomatic strategies are crucial for enhancing nations' influence and resilience in an increasingly complex geopolitical landscape. We have seen what's happening with Ukraine, Europe, and America and Russia playing a tango, and also in Middle East, where the Israel is fighting its war for survival, and how it is going on. So it's a very complex world where diplomacy is one of the most important tools which we have to actually safeguard India's interest. In that regard, diplomatic strategy plays a very pivotal role in that. Proactively framing India's economic initiatives abroad emphasizes mutual, so narrative focused diplomacy. Diplomacy and narrative needs to go together. Previously, it was not that, but with Dr. Jaishankar coming in, and he's being at the helm for almost 10 plus years, he has created a kind of bedrock on which we can build further and create a kind of a long-term policy on diplomacy and how it could aid India's overall long-term projection of power and also in terms of creating secure borders. Proactively framing India's economic initiatives abroad emphasizes mutual growth instead of defensively countering perceptions. Very important. India has been doing defensive countering of narratives. Time has come for India to be on the offensive. Proactively framing India's economic initiatives abroad emphasizes mutual growth instead of defensively countering perceptions of hegemonic ambitions. This approach cultivates a positive image and strengthens bilateral relations through shared objectives rather than confrontational narrative. Strategic autonomy preservation. This is a very controversial topic. Now, the era of American dominance as a single unipolar world is not over, but it is a waning power. Now we have China. Now we have European Union. Now we have Russia, Iran. These powers now they are eating into the American unipolar power structure little by little, and we have seen. uh, when President Trump is trying to actually create peace between Russia and Ukraine, Europeans are playing a dirty game. You have seen the same thing happening with Israel and Palestinians. So where America is not able to have its way in terms of having a ceasefire. So now there are a lot of players. So the era of unipolar power structure is gone. Slowly, it will not wither in a short while, but slowly you will see a multipolar world where the power will be shared between Asian countries, European countries, Americans, and Russians as well. So in this scenario, having having a it's your own economic policy, own diplomatic policy is very important. India's defense procurement strategy seeks to balance relationships with Russia and US by maintaining a focus on indigenous capability building. This approach prevents dependencies that could undermine national security and promote self-sufficiency in defense technology. Regional leadership assertions. During crises such as Nepal's earthquake, India's prompt humanitarian response demonstrates its role as a regional leader. Rapid mobilization of its aid enhances India's soft power and reassures neighboring nations of its commitment to regional stability. Multi-alignment approach. Participating in both the Quad and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) allows India to maintain strategic flexibility. This dual approach bolsters its security partnership without compromising relationships with rivals, showcasing India's adeptness in navigating a complex geopolitical landscape. Enhancing intelligence capabilities. Strengthening intelligence capabilities through advanced technologies, linguistic skills, regional focus, global partnership, and deep analysis is paramount to addressing contemporary security challenges. Technology integration. Deploying advanced quantum cryptography systems offers a secure communications for intelligence operatives, minimizing risks of interception. This integration enhances operational security, ensuring critical information remains confidential and uncompromised. This is very important in terms of inputs. Linguistic capability. This is something which is not talked about, but having people who can speak the language of your opponents. I'll give an example. In Israel, from school, when kids and children go to school and learn, Arabic is mandatory. So every school kid in Israel learns Arabic. So when they pass out from the school, they already speak Arabic, fluent Arabic. It's mandatory. Now you would say why Israel needs to speak Arabic? Because they have been fighting and war of existential with the Palestinians who speak Arabic, and they don't have a very friendly relations with Lebanon, Syria, with Egypt. They do have a peace treaty with Egypt and Jordan, but the enemy or the threats from Arabic speaking countries is so much that it's paramount for national security of Israel so that everybody speaks and knows the Arabic language and also understands Arabic culture so that they can understand what they are doing. Same way, in India's national security interest, people who speak Urdu, people who speak Punjabi, people who speak Chinese, people who speak other languages, where you see a threat coming in, to actually monitor their communications, media, so that you will be able to actually understand what's going on in their society. So, developing specialized training programs in critical languages such as Mandarin, the Chinese language, allows intelligence officers to effectively monitor communications and engage with local populations. This capability enhances understanding of regional context and cultural nuances. That's very important. Cultural nuances. Regional focus, maintaining extensive human intelligence network within diverse communities in regions like Afghanistan provides insights that technology alone cannot offer. This focus allows for a deeper understanding of evolving power dynamics. This is very important, and let me give an example of it. The 7th October attack, which happened, which Hamas actually attacked Israel and took hostages and kept them hostages for, and still we still have some people who are under Hamas captivity. That happened because Israel is a leader in intelligence in terms of technical intelligence on communications, but there was a report came in which mentioned that when there was a report coming in regarding why the 7th October attack happened and what was the failure of the agencies in Israel. And one of the things which was actually pointed out was the lack of human intelligence, and they depended too much on technical intelligence in terms of communication, social media, telephones, mobiles. So this signals intelligence is very important, but human intelligence cannot be ignored. And we have seen what has happened if you ignore that, that you will have a 7 October attack. Same thing would happen to also us as well if we do not effectively have human capital being deployed, and people in other countries where you can gauge the mood of the nation, its communities, via local population who can provide you good quality intelligence at the local level, human intelligence. Because end of the day, human intelligence cannot replace technical intelligence in terms of communications, in terms of media, in terms of social media, because they do play an important part, but we never should actually undermine the priority or importance of human intelligence. Maintaining extensive human intelligence networks with diverse communities in regions like Afghanistan provides insights that technology alone cannot offer. This focus allows for a deeper understanding of evolving power dynamics. Global reach, establishing intelligence liaison relationships in Southeast Asia, Africa enhances surveillance of international investments without necessitating a larger operational presence. This strategy provides significant situational awareness on global activities. This is a bit complex, and a lot of people might not know that Indian intelligence or the American intelligence or Chinese or Israeli, Russians, they do actually cooperate with each other. So, example would be Mossad of Israel. Okay, we have RAW here. We have CIA there in America, and wherever their actually interests align, they do actually share intelligence with each other, that what is happening. So these alliances and liaisons in having a relationship with your other intelligence agencies, where you can safely share information with each other, will make sure that any threat, a regional security threat, can be averted, can be taken care of if you have that alliances. Because some information would be there with some other countries, and if that is shared in time with the other countries, we will see a better approach, and it also helps to actually build a kind of a relationships of trust over a long period of time, which actually help. Because people might think, okay, they do not cooperate. All agencies in terms of intelligence, they do cooperate with each other whenever their interests align, and it needs to be strengthened. Analytical depth, creating a dedicated analytical unit focusing on political dynamics in regions like Pakistan leads to comprehensive insights beyond immediate security threats. This depth in analysis informs and enhances strategic decision making processes. Very important, because when you see Pakistan as an example, where the politics is very complex and very unreliable and unpredictable. Something can happen tomorrow and nobody will know about it. We have seen what has happened in Bangladesh, where where within four months the elected prime minister was dethroned and an unelected coup took place in that region. So, and one thing is very important, which this book talks about, the ultimate goal of narratives. So, security is not about just addressing what's happening right now. Security is about having information and analytical data to actually create strategies how to prevent future problems or anticipate future problems so that we can take effective steps in terms of mitigating them. So, in this regard, creating a dedicated analytical unit focusing on political dynamics in regions like Pakistan, Afghanistan, and other regions in Bangladesh leads to comprehensive insights beyond immediate security threats. This depth in analysis informs and enhances strategic decision-making process for the politicians, for the army, and also for the agency itself. Intelligence policy coordination. Efficient intelligence policy coordination is vital governmental decision making and enabling proactive response to emerging threats. Let me just break it for you. Intelligence policy coordination. Efficient intelligence policy coordination is vital for ensuring that security insights directly inform governmental decision making. So we have IB, and we also have state IB. So every state in India will have its own offices. So you have a state level intelligence bureau, you have a central level intelligence bureau, then you have your R&W who will gather information and work on outside India's borders. But they all have to coordinate and share information to the political leadership and also the military intelligence, MI. So they all have to sit together, but how they will share the information, how they will trust each other. So for, on this regard, intelligence policy coordination. So there should be a policy where they can safely share information among each other without breaching its operational integrity, so that the political government can take decisions which will enable proactive response to emerging threats. Structured mechanisms, secure implementing regular secure briefings allows intelligence chiefs to directly inform cabinet committees about emerging threats. This practice ensures that intelligence insights are integrated into policy decisions. Very important. Creating a cohesive approach towards national security challenges. Example would be Chinese investments into India's telecommunications infrastructure. We have seen in last few years a lot of Chinese companies have been banned from actually bidding for Indian government contracts on communications. Now that is very important because China is an adversary country, and we know that companies in China have to have a government liaison, a government nominee in their board. That means no company in China is immune from government interference. So a Chinese government can actually arm twist a Chinese company to create backdoors, share data, and make India's become a threat to them. So in this regard, a structured mechanism where, let's say, economic liberalization policy, divest where we divest government assets into private hands. We need to make sure those assets are not gobbled by Chinese and other threats, Chinese and other companies who are threat to India's national security in the name of economic liberalization. In this regard, a mechanism where intelligence agencies would share inputs that this is something that you need to guard against, so that policies and decisions taken by the government are in accordance with the national security threat perception which is given by the agencies. I'll take questions a little later. Analytical independence. Establishing safeguards. Analytical independence. Establishing safeguards protects intelligence analysts from external pressures to tailor assessments to political preferences. Very important. This independence fosters objective intelligence analysis, crucial for informed decision making. I was actually reading a report which came regarding the 7th October attacks in Israel, where Hamas had actually done very bad things uh, in Israel. They had kidnapped women, children, they had killed military officers, they have attacked military barracks. In this regard, there and in that report as well, and also in the various podcasts which I have listened to, there was a one common theme. The common theme was the political class have a bias, and the analysts who were giving reports, who were giving inputs to the political class, now they were not being very honest with the politicians. So it was like I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So the intelligence reports were actually being tailor made consciously or subconsciously to actually suit the political standing, the political perspective of the government itself. And that should not have been the case. We have seen a few days ago the chief of Shin Bet. Shin Bet is the uh, what do you say, an equivalent to IB. Shin Bet is the intelligence agency in Israel which takes care of internal security. His chief has been fired. Now there's a lot of been controversy, a lot of things why he is being fired, a lot is happening. But this is a symptom of a problem where the intelligence agencies lose their independence in terms of objectively reporting what they need to say, rather than tailoring their reports to make happy or suit the political narrative of the government. That should not be the case, because that overall will degrade the quality of the intelligence reports, and it will not be able to mitigate the future threats if that continues over time, because that will create a kind of a false security in terms of what they are doing, and they will miss the red lines where there could be a threat looming and they will miss it. So establishing safeguards protects intelligence analysts from external pressure to tailor assessments to political preferences. This independence fosters objective intelligence analysis, crucial for informed decision making. Feedback loops, creating systems for policymakers to provide feedback on intelligence use allows for the identification of useful information and improves future collection priorities. This reciprocal relationship enhances the efficacy of intelligence in policy making. Let me unpack it for you. Creating systems for policymakers to provide feedback on intelligence use allows. So example I gave earlier, but I'll just extend it. That intelligence agencies would give information that these Chinese companies should not be given any contract because they have direct links to Chinese government and agencies. Now, if that information is found now, there would be a mechanism, a filter mechanism, where the policymakers and agencies to sit together and actually evaluate the effectiveness of that intelligence and how and what they need more. They might need more information. That policymakers might ask, why don't you investigate these two other companies who have actually bid? And if you see these two companies are to be banned, why not these two as well? So now this kind of feedback loop, which will create a better trust, understanding, and effective way to actually collaboration and making our country secure over a long period of time. Crisis communications. Developing pre-established protocols for rapid intelligence sharing during crisis ensures timely information distribution among agencies. This clarity in communication is essential for a decisive action during terrorist events, minimizing response times. I'll go back to the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai, where the energy was deployed in rapid quick time, but it can be done better. where you already have a what we call as a kind of a crisis group, where there will be people who will be nominated, there will be SOPs created, there will be communication coordination already established in terms of protocols, what will happen. So this will make sure that the response time, quality of response, quality of effectiveness of that operation will be enhanced in case this happens, and also collaboration with other agencies. Like I think in 2611 attacks, the satellite phones which were used by the terrorists, and they had traced it to Pakistan. So now that information was very critical to actually convict and actually find out who were the people who were controlling and who created this attack. So in this regard, this crisis communication framework and protocol, where you already know what needs to be done in case this happens, will ensure that it can be mitigated effectively and we can minimize loss of life and also loss of economic things over time. So this ends our presentation. Okay, now let me go through. Okay, if you have any question or any comments, do so let me go through the comments, and I will read maybe a chapter of this because this is a very interesting book. So I would request everybody to go ahead and read the book. Thank you, Didi. This is thanks to AI. Book to padna padega. You need to read the book, but actually you can take down the notes and then you can create a presentation. Now, there are no questions, so let me. It's a bit difficult chapter, but let's see. So let me now read from the ultimate goal. Okay, I'll stop the screen share. Okay, do you want me to read the introduction, or you want me to read the chapter, whichever you feel like. The intro is very not that big; it's very small. Yes, yes, Didi. See, it is called a fifth generation information war. So in the fifth generation war, fifth generation is about information in particular, and that information drives narrative. So first you will have the information. Okay, small. It's very small. It's very small. It's only 3 pages, because it will give you a bit of perspective on what he's talking about. So yes, information war is primary, and based on the information, they will create a narrative war. So it all goes both together. I think China. See, the biggest example of like this reaction channels travel channel. Chinese media actually funds a lot of travel influencers to actually come to China, pay them money, pay for their stay, give them money, give them access, so that they can create a positive narrative for China in the global sphere. So if you can see how the reaction channels actually work in terms of creating a narrative, it is very important. Let me read from the introduction. From the book The Ultimate Goal, a former raw chief deconstructs how nations construct narratives. Vikram Sood. Introduction. Yes, travel bloggers are paid by China, and even that, and Pakistan copied the same narrative, same format for. If you see Imran Khan when he was Prime Minister of Pakistan, there were a lot of foreign travel influencers came to Pakistan and like creating a narrative that Pakistan is a very beautiful country, it's a very safe country for women. All those things were happening. So actually, Pakistan copied that same format and tried to create their own thing. It did not do as well because Pakistan anyway is a busted country with nothing to give. But the same thing was copied by also Pakistan, especially Imran Khan in particular. So if you can go back and see on Pakistan tourism, how many people of European and Americans who were doing videos on this. It was on a introduction. Yes, it was on a late morning in October 1948 that a man in his late 40s, dressed rather inconspicuously but appropriately for this is very interesting one. Actually, this intro is very interesting. You guys will love it. It was on a late morning in October 1948 that a man in his late 40s, dressed rather inconspicuously but appropriately for Moscow's autumn, boarded a train for Warsaw from nearly 100 from Warsaw from the nearly 100-year-old uh, Leningradsky station. He was a man on a mission eminently suitable for his talents. He was fluent in 5 languages and a talented painter and musician. Focus on these points. Fluent in 5 languages and a talented painter and musician. Warsaw was not Warsaw was not his destination. Upon arrival, he discarded his identity papers and took on the identity of Andrew, Andrew Coyotes, a Lithuanian-born U.S. citizen with an American passport. Coyotes then traveled to Czechoslovakia, Switzerland, and Paris before boarding the RMS Scythia from Le Havre, destined for Quebec. Once Quebec is in China. Once there, Coyotes moved to Montreal before turning up in New York in November 1948. A Soviet illegal a Soviet illegal met Coyotes and handed him some startup cash, a genuine birth certificate and a forged draft card and tax certificate, all in the name of Emil Robert Goldfuss. Now, let me tell you one thing. Uh, a lot of agencies actually use deceased persons' credentials who have died, and they procure them and they use those identities who have already been dead, and they will get a new identity from that because that person actually existed. They will have their tax record and everything else. They will use those tax records, their birth certificates, they will procure locally and use them for their agents to work on that country itself. So it's very important. A Soviet illegal met Coyotes and handed him some startup cash, a genuine birth certificate, and a forged draft card and tax certificate, all in the name of Emil Robert Goldfuss. The real Goldfuss had died a few months after his birth. Few died a few months after his birth on 2nd August 1902 in New York, and the Soviets had acquired his birth certificate. The false Goldfuss credentials as an artist and photographer enabled him the facility of movement and freedom not bound by regular hours. Because he's an artist and a musician, he would travel to countries. Yes, facility of movement. So a musician who speaks languages, who's an artist, nobody will say, okay, why you are traveling to this country? He will say, I am going to go and sing. I am going to go do a painting exhibition. So it gives him deniability that, okay, I am going for a walk rather than doing for any other intentions. Movement and freedom not bound by regular hours. So he could work to revive Soviet intelligence communications network, the volunteers, as they were called. There was an urgency about Goldfuss emission after US President Harry S. Truman announced on 6 August 1945 that the US Air Force had dropped atom bomb on Hiroshima, Japan, adding Hiroshima, adding unapologetically that US would continue to target the enemy with greater power if need be. The message to Joseph Stalin was clear. The former ally and then adversary was told that the post-Second World War narrative of parity had changed. From that moment on, the United States was asserting that it was the paramount global power, a unipolar world. This drastically altered power equations and global perceptions. So, before World War II, there were two powers, superpowers, the USSR and United States. But when US dropped the atomic bombs on Japan, for that moment, US became the primary power, military power in this world, and Soviets were lagging behind. Stalin's prestige was at stake, as was the great as was that of the great Soviet proletariat that should have been conquering the globe under his command. The thought that the US would become the sole superpower was not an acceptable narrative. Balance had to be restored and quickly. In the summer of 1945, Stalin went into a huddle in his uh, secret dasha in Kunestov with some of his closest advisors, including his intelligence chief, Laverne Beria. Laverne, Levante Beria. Although Soviet spies like Klaus Hook and others had already infiltrated the Los Alamos laboratory and the Manhattan Project that had developed the nuclear weapons in the US, the gathering of intelligence had slowed down because of heavy American surveillance. We can assume that Stalin, driven by rage and fear, ordered that the network be revived, and soon the NKVD, People's Commissariat of Internal Affairs, NKDB was at the Soviet time the Agency Bureau. So it was NKVD, People's Commissariat Commissariat for Internal Affairs, was in frenzied pursuit of atomic secrets. Goldfuss set himself up in a studio apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Soon enough, he succeeded in reviving the communications system. He was able to collect and deliver vital intelligence from the extensive ring of the Soviet Union's atomic spies like George Koval and Klaus Fuchs, with an elaborate support network formed by Lona and Morris Cohen, Morton Sobel, and Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. The Soviets the Soviets tested their bomb in Kazakhstan on 29 August 1949. They had caught up with the arch enemy. Parity had been restored and Stalin was pleased. The narrative was freezing the narrative was freezing into the Cold War. In the epilogue, to this story, Koval slipped away. Fuchs got imprisoned in England in 1950. Stalin died in 1953, and Beria was executed soon after. They were all caught. Goldfuss was betrayed by his deputy and arrested in New York in 1957. The American press went ballistic when Goldfuss declared that. Now, listen to this very carefully. Goldfuss was betrayed by his deputy and arrested in New York in 1957. The American press went ballistic when Goldfuss declared that his name was Colonel Rudolph Ivanovich Abel. In reality, there was no Colonel Colonel Abel. It was a name the Soviets had given him as a cover. Goldfuss used it to convey to his masters that it was really him that the Americans had arrested and that he had not revealed his actual identity. In 1962, he was exchanged at the uh, Glenelg Bridge that linked West Berlin with Potsdam for the American pilot. Francis Gary Powers, who had been shot down, Francis Gary Powers, who had been shot down and was in Soviet custody. He died in 1971. His tombstone read Colonel Rudolph Abel, along with his real name, William this is a Russian name, Gendrik Fischer. Fischer was the son of a Russian immigrant parents and was born in England in 1903. Purist spymasters say that Abel was not really much of a success in New York, but it suited the Soviets to exchange him for powers as a grand gesture to the Americans. After 14 years in America, Abel was the spy who had come from the cold. Facts are not facts. So this is how the spy thing works. Facts are not always what they appear to be, but are often what they are perceived to be. Read very carefully. Facts are not always what they appear to be, but are often what they perceive to be. You can you can twist the facts to create your own narrative the way you want it. Thus, truth is not supreme in affairs of state, and it's often hidden within a bundle of lies, half truths, and innuendos. Instead, perceptions built on narratives became the accepted truth. Over time, we become the embodiment of our perceptions. Very important. Over time, we become the embodiment of our perceptions. Your perception of an individual or a state or an institution is built over time, and once that is built, it is very difficult to change that. Prejudice, hates, dislikes, as well as our own nationalism that often border on narcissistic beliefs. Unlike scientific facts or mathematical equations, which are sacrosanct until proven otherwise, political facts, historical facts, and ideas malleable, are malleable and can be changed as per geopolitical convenience. Scientific proof is rarely required, but archaeological facts for history are an exception. This conviction is determined by the narrative created. In the summer of 2020, the Almighty United States is boarded. The Almighty United States is boarded up as the world sees police high-handedness on the streets and rioting hordes breaking into stores across the country, apparently looting in protest. The disempowered seek change. Those in power naturally oppose this. Another potential, more serious narrative is being played out across the Himalayas as two nuclear armed states with largest armies in the world, India and China, confront each other confront each other thanks to Chinese provocations. Meanwhile, the coronavirus. So we have seen what was happening. I think here we talk about the George Floyd incident in US, where the looting took place, and then you have the BLM, Black Lives Matter movement, was actually created with the George Floyd death. Meanwhile, the coronavirus that continues to wreak havoc across the world and is widely believed and accepted to have originated in China has its own narrative. A well-publicized, elaborate military exhibition of China's preparedness and intentions across its borders, chiefly aimed at India, comes at a time is when the US is in a domestic strife, the BLM movement. Both these both these acts seem to be part of a Chinese narrative driven by premature hubris in Asia and perhaps even in the world. These, these acts also reveal the true nature of a rising power that is irresponsible. China, talking about egregious and a bully. The battle of narratives has never been so grim as it is today because real power comes not from the barrel of the gun but from those who control narratives. When national interest is camouflaged as principles which are then transformed into narratives, it is a matter of time before the two come into conflict. China is not mysterious power. It is a dictatorial in the extreme. It is various, ambitious, ruthless, ruled by a megalomaniac. So megalomaniacs, you can search on the Google. So megalomaniacs is somebody who is, how would I say, over possessive power and who doesn't know the limits of power. In the West and rest of the world, that is glamorized as in the West and the rest of the world that has glamorized a dictatorship and created a new ecosystem around it to fill its coffers and obtain benefits of various kinds. So there has been a lot of narrative building going on, portraying China as an economic power, as a military power, and in the hindsight, they are with this narrative, they are now sanitizing the dictatorial regime of China's CCP. So, although they are not doing overtly, but they are internally they are trying to create a perception that living in a dictatorship will give you economic power, will give you military power. Now, that means legitimizing a dictatorship. And in the other way, India and US and others being in strife will create a kind of perception among people that being a democracy is a hindrance to growth and power. When in the West and the rest of the world that has glamorized a dictatorship and created a new ecosystem around it to fill its coffers and obtain benefits of various kinds, unraveling China's unraveling China's mysteries became an intellectual challenge at universities and think tanks, even as activists flagged human rights violations in the country. Eventually, it was big game destined to go awry. And we can see today that the previously held narratives have become skewed. Narratives are also about the need to adapt. The ultimate remote control weapon is one that strikes at hostile targets in faraway places, operated from a safe location outside the zone of conflict. In, in, in in unilateral in a unilateral warfare where people die only on one side. The killer sees his victim as a silent puff of smoke on the screen, and since he does not hear their cries, modern technology enables this to be described as humane weapon. He's talking about, I think, started with the Gulf War, in the Iraq War, which was televised in 1990s, where the U.S. planes were actually bombing Iraqi positions, and it was live broadcast on CNN for the first time, and people were cheering for one party or the other, and they could not feel the weapon destroying houses. People were dying. Children, schools were, and they were not getting enough food. So that creates a kind of a humane warfare. War is never humane. And when you watch it over television, it looks very sanitized for people, but it is actually not. So modern technology enables this to be described as a humane weapon. Armed with this rationale, George W. Bush and later Barack Obama cleared their conscience and allowed the Predator drone, which was used by US and also by other forces, to actually target their enemies, especially in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Allowed the Predator to be used extensively in Afghanistan. From this point on, the narrative was that the drones were not just morally acceptable but morally obligatory and strategically necessary as well. A nation cannot build a nation cannot build on credible narrative about its values if it does not practice freedom at home or if it relies solely on government machineries to spread its message. Such nations do not receive affection even if they might get some respect or more likely fear. Building narratives and sustaining them is part of the effort to control storylines, which in turn help control the world, the ultimate goal of the ambitious and the powerful. Hollywood is one of those weapons. Hollywood was used as a weapon to actually create perceptions, shape minds of millions of people around the globe as America as the good superpower, which would help people with riches with riches and power concentrated in a few global and popular media controlled by Western governments and corporations. There are many who believe that there are constant efforts being made at the mind control. In 1957, an American author, Vance Packard, wrote his book, The Hidden Persuaders: How Advertising Their Advertisement Efficiently. There were agencies that specialized in this research, but perhaps none of this was as serious or sinister as CIA's secret operation MK Ultra, which was about mind control. People can search on the Google about MK Ultra. Pulitzer Prize winning and Pulitzer Prize winner and intellectual Walter Lippmann said in 1922, the public must be put in its place so that it may exercise its own powers, but no less and perhaps even more so that each of us may live free of the trampling and roar of bewildered herd. According to Lippmann, the bewildered herd needed to be guided by government class. Understand, bewildered herd is common people who watch television, who watch movies, who watch news, who consume social media, and by consuming it and by controlling it by the governments and corporations, they are building your mindset, your perspective, how you see the other, how you see people, how you see your world. The bewildered herd needed to be guided by a governing class. This comprised the wealthy experts. This comprised the wealthy experts, politicians, bureaucrats, and the mass media, and use knowledge to control the masses. The television was a great medium to dumb down the viewer and feed fake news, distract him or her, lower self-esteem, and even numb the mind to violence. Commentary. This is a very big book, so let I just in a intro. Pardon, I'm writing the intro. So commentary will do later. Okay. First, we need to understand के क्या बोल रहा है. First read and then we'll have the commentary. This is this is the last chapter I will read because we have one more stream coming up. Six media giants in the US control 90% of everything that is watched, read, read and heard. Five billionaires run and control the British media, with Rupert Murdoch controlling the largest share, others being Barclay Brothers, owners Barclay Brothers, owners of the Telegraph, and Viscount Rothmere, owner of the Mail Group. Some of the most powerful figures, including those from the media world, are linked to influence creating institutions in America. This makes narrative control all much easier. You can ask questions. I'll give you answers. 5 million troops from colonies of the British and French Empire fought for the Allies in the Second World War. In fact, Indian troops were shoulder to shoulder with British forces at Dunkirk. But when the time came to participate in victory parades, not a single black or brown trooper was represented, nor did the Very interesting. The Dunkirk movie, people would have watched it. Okay. And in the Dunkirk movie, Allies, the Second World War, the the Indian troops, the native, the whites and the Indians and the Asians who fought in Dunkirk, and when the time came for parades, not a single black or brown troops were represented, nor did the 2017 film Dunkirk show a single Indian face. How many people have watched the movie but did not know that there were Indian troops shoulder to shoulder fighting with them? There was no war memorial for them, unlike the Australians and the New Zealanders who had one for themselves. This was because of narrative of racial superiority. Whites are superior. Post independence, the Western narrative about India changed. It took on a different political flavor against socialists, pro-Soviet, against socialists, pro-Soviet Nehruvian India, and instead become supportive of a pliable and useful politicians and generals in Pakistan. Discourses about India stereotype the country as a poor, corrupt land without hope, unable to survive without Western largesse. The beggar on the street, the bullock cart, the poverty, the massive crowds, the snake charmer, and the Taj Mahal were the stock shots of the media, accompanied by appropriate, useful, deprecatory, and commentary. In the years after independence, the the Hindu Indian intellectual did not help India's case either. Civilizational roots were discarded, and appeasement for its sins not committed was preferred route. Understand? I'm to in the next team. I'm going to discuss all these things point by point. Okay. This this line is very important. The Hindu Indian intellectual did not help India's case either. Civilizational roots were discarded, and appeasement for its sins not committed was the preferred route to international recognition. Hmm. It was only after दीदी आई हैव टू मोर प्रेजेंटेशन ये तो एक था और दो और है मेरे पास वो मैं आपको दे दूंगा सो यू कैन डिसाइड विच वन want to do. So there actually इसमें बहुत सारा content है तो it required 3 or 4 actually to create all these things. Civilizational roots were discarded and appeasement for its sins not committed was the preferred route to international recognition. How many intellectuals who were funded scholarships, posts, teachers, and others were given posts in Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, and other elite universities funded by the governments to actually create the narrative that India was a country which was committed sins in terms of its what we call the atrocity literature in terms of Dalits. It was only after okay. It was only after the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits and their exodus in 1990, the refusal of the Muslim leadership to give up Babri Masjid for something close to Hindu faith, followed by a double jeopardy of continually. Okay, this is interesting. Let me. It was only after the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits and their exodus in 1990, the refusal of Muslim leadership to give up the Babri Masjid for something of a continually supine government that conceded to the establishment of a minorities commission and minorities ministry to appease Muslims. Understand that there was an unpopular upsurge of Hindu sentiment. The Hindu had begun to feel threatened in a country where he was in a majority. He began to assert his democratic right of one person, one vote, and each person with equal rights. This has this has changed the way young Indians look at the West as a place of opportunity, but with self-respect. Western media perceptions are more about envy, along with the dereliction, earlier derelitions, or are at best patronizing. Today, the entitled in India feel dispossessed and deprived after decades of privilege. He's talking about the previous elite of Nehruvian era, which controlled everything. And after the BJP government came into power, they were actually dispossessed. And people know what we're talking about. Their dialogues are increasingly confined to their echo chambers, the liberal elites. They are unable to see that there is an India that is fast changing. The person who is going to matter is the kind who went to an Indian Institute of Technology via Super 30 school in Patna, or the Shoshta Seva Sangha, uh, Shoshit Seva Sangha in the same city, which provides quality modern school education to the Mushahis, the lowest of the low in India's still prevalent caste hierarchy. Religion and secularism in Indian context have remained a flawed narrative. The state must be equidistant from all religions to be secular. It does not have to grant concessions based on religion or allow any religion to follow its own provisions for the affairs of the state. Of any religion can be a truly tolerant person. It is the bigot who is dangerous, and the most threatening is the self-proclaimed liberal. Read it very carefully. The most threatening is the self-proclaimed liberal who tolerates no opinion other than his own. The world owes tremendous gratitude to the West for creating modern narrative about freedom, democracy, arts, and culture, science, and technology. And we might have invented lethal weapons, but we also understood the marvels of modern medicine. Some political narratives that have originated solely in the West are no longer acceptable, nor are they tenable. Narratives of superiority, power, and wealth couch in persistent innuendo and attitudes. Attitudes must go. An alternative that represents 1.3 billion people must exist and must be known. An alternative Indian story must be heard by the world. We live in an age of multiple distractions where new ideas become instant narratives. Riots can be generated on various social media channels in a matter of minutes. The Nagpur issue. Shutdowns affect shutdowns shutdowns affected with similar speed, and fake news can travel around the globe at a speed of faster than the rocket. In this new age, the traditional diplomat or civil servant fears redundancy when political leaders resort to converting ideas into policy pronouncements on these channels. Consequently, governments and societies wanting to build narratives and counter them need and counter them need completely new sets of human skills that include an ability to anticipate and respond to these new challenges. Big or small, powerful or not, the country must be able to tell its story itself. And this is not for domination, and this is not for a domination alone. It is to prevent itself from being dominated as well. India has many stories to tell the world, which it must do in its own words, not informed by outsiders. So we will end our reading today. I am going to share a bit more information. I will have few more bullet points which we'll discuss in our coming up sessions. So thank you everyone for joining. It was really appreciate your time giving and your comments. So we'll see you in half an hour with the author. They were putting Ghatok on his book. Let me see the book. Do we have the book? Okay. Yeah. With his book on left violence. So till then, Jai Shri Ram, Vande Mataram.